Fender Stratocaster, and Telecaster design flaws. If someone had a time machine, it would have been very easy, in hindsight, to advise Leo Fender in the early 1950s to install a belly cut and armrest on his Telecaster to make it a more comfortable guitar. I'm convinced, given Fender's character, that he would have gladly accepted this advice. In fact, shortly afterward, his 1954 Stratocaster already included a belly cut and armrest, which are very welcome. It's not that these guitars are poorly made, but these so-called errors can be taken into account in certain cases. The pioneers in the development of the electric guitar had to solve problems and add improvements to their initial designs over time until they achieved optimal performance of their products. Although some features that could be considered improvable have been maintained to this day under the protection of what is classified as classic, vintage or traditional, such as the classic Telecaster bridge. This bridge has only 3 saddles, on which the guitar strings rest in pairs. This feature can give the instrument greater resonance and sustain, since each saddle supports 2 strings, and the strings press more firmly against the bridge. On the other hand, the guitar's intonation is compromised because each string doesn't have its own length adjustment. Consequently, we have to sacrifice the correct intonation of some strings, or, if necessary, choose to average this deviation across each pair of strings assigned to each saddle. Something that has now been corrected in some updated Fender models with individual saddle bridges for each string, or bridges with traditional saddles with recesses to compensate for intonation. Another drawback of the classic Telecaster is the aforementioned lack of recesses in the wood that could improve playing comfort. This allows the guitar to better adapt to the player's ergonomics. Some of you might think that Les Paul models don't have recesses either, but these are different cases. The Telecaster's neck and body are on the same plane, making it a completely straight guitar. In contrast, the Les Paul's neck is angled relative to the body, which facilitates ergonomics between guitar and player. Both the classic bridge and the absence of recesses in the wood can be found today in quite expensive guitars, such as the original 50 and 60 Telecasters, or even in exorbitantly priced editions such as the Fender 51 Nocaster and the Fender 50's Telecaster Relic. Plus, we have to put up with the resulting wear, scuffs, and scratches, in true vintage style, of course. This way, we can enjoy a brand new guitar, as if it's been abused for 70 years. Interesting. I would have to have a lot of money to opt for one of these. On the other hand, I'd pay every cent for other Fender models, like Richie Kotzen's custom Telecaster made in Japan. Compared to the previous one, this one costs 3 times less, and just looking at the finish on this guitar, you can tell they're not just laughing at you. Featuring a lightweight ash body with a decorative flamed maple top flanked by white binding, abalone dot inlays, a brass bridge with individual saddles, and with belly cut in the back and an armrest in the front. This is a truly attractive, ergonomic, and functional Telecaster. Its hot rail style bridge pickup has a modern character, but that's a different topic. If we want this guitar to sound more traditional, we just have to swap out the bridge pickup for a classic style pickup. At least Fender has fixed the ergonomics problem on the American Ultra and American Ultra Lux series Telecasters. Finally, the possible improvements that could have been applied to the Telecaster were incorporated into the Fender Stratocaster, such as a bridge with individual saddles and a more ergonomic body. Guitarist Bill Carson was one of the critics of the Telecaster's rough shape, and Fender used his input in developing the contoured Stratocaster body. Although the Stratocaster's design didn't exactly come out right the first time. Originally, this guitar didn't even have combined pickup options. The original Strat was limited to individual pickup selections. But thanks to the design of the 3-position selector, when the lever is moved from one position to the other, it makes the next connection before breaking the previous contact. At that instant, both pickups are activated. A 3-way pickup selector is unthinkable on a Strat today, but this system endured on all Strats for over 20 years, until the 5-way switch became available in 1977. However, guitarists realized long before that if you could keep the selector in an intermediate position just before switching to the next pickup, you would get a unique and distinctive sound. This is how the so-called quack sound, so characteristic when two pickups of this guitar model are activated, was created. The layout of the controls, while aesthetically pleasing to the pickguard design, may be a bit awkward for some guitarists. The volume control is very close to the strings, and its setting can be accidentally altered. Although that would actually be the perfect place if we want to perform volume swells with complete comfort. In any case, it would be even more convenient to use a volume pedal to perform the same function. The pickup selector is positioned quite far forward and can be accidentally altered by the most effusive strumming guitarists. In traditional models, the tone controls act only on the neck and center pickup, leaving the bridge pickup without the possibility of modifying its tone. For example, the Chapman ML1X model solves these problems with a master volume control slightly further away from the strings, a master tone control that acts on the overall tone of the instrument regardless of the selected pickup, and the pickup selector out of reach of the right hand. Many may think that such a model is out of Fender's aesthetics and design, and is a bit strange to the eye with respect to the traditional model. But we must be open-minded and not think that everything from Fender is the best, just because it is Fender. For example, in this picture we see Mark Knopfler handling an extraordinary Stratocaster-style guitar made by Pensasur, and it perfectly matches my opinion on the functions and layout of the controls. However, if we are lovers of the purest and most traditional Fender sound, we can always mount classic-style pickups on a guitar of this type and enjoy both advantages. Although nowadays modern Fender models do have control over the tone of the bridge pickup. However, it is worth knowing this issue when buying traditional models or second-hand guitars without any surprises. Leo Fender was well aware of the problem with the Stratocaster's tone controls, but he managed to redeem himself in a masterful way in his time at G&L Guitars. In this brand, Fender kept the traditional look of the standard Stratocaster potentiometers with two tone controls, but this time using the PTB tone system, passive treble and bass. As its name indicates, it would be two master tone controls, one dedicated for bass and one for treble. The plastic knobs of the Stratocaster don't give a very good feeling. I refer to the evidence and I show you the Schecter USA traditional model. The truth is that metal knobs look better. A traditional Stratocaster model with master tone and volume, with a situation of the volume control a little more separated from the strings. We move on to the bridge, and specifically to its saddles, of course in vintage style. The screws of this type of saddles usually protrude, and also the end of the screw is sharpened by the thread itself. If you get careless in a fit of emotion, these screws can skin your hand. These classic Fender saddles also do not have a guide for the string to be channeled in the center of the saddle. So it would be best to replace them with others, such as the Highwood HG 1050 Vintage. These saddles have a classic appearance, as its name suggests they integrate a central channel in which to accommodate the string, and the screws are embedded without fear of possible chafing. The price of the set of 6 units is about $40, and they have different widths to suit our type of saddle. The standard fretboard radius of most traditional Telecasters and Stratocasters is usually 7.25 inches. In short, a fairly curved fingerboard. This can be beneficial when placing chords, especially bar chords, but it can be detrimental when plucking and bend string, especially in the lower part of the fretboard. Consequently, it is not a very versatile fretboard radius. In fact, Leo Fender during his time at G&L beginning in 1980 would eventually opt for the versatile 12 inches fingerboard radius, widely used on Gibson models. The Fender Stratocaster is one of the most versatile guitars in terms of different sounds and pickup configuration. Although its versatility could be increased even more if we have the two pickup configurations that would be missing in its standard 5-position selector. Joint selection between the neck and bridge pickup, and selection of all 3 pickups in unison. something that Fender would also solve in G&L in the S500 model. This guitar integrates, in its tone control, a push-pull system that would allow us to activate the aforementioned selections. Another improvement Fender made to the Strat's G&L was to ensure that the vibrato lever was not left dangling or at the mercy of the whims of the thread for a fixed position. To solve this, they integrated a simple clamping system to fix the lever in the desired position. I recommend the video, Electric Guitar Types, to learn about the different types of electric guitars. The link will appear now.